Welcome to this video. Imagine waking up in a beautiful city, walking through the streets, hearing people talking, smelling fresh bread, and thinking it is going to be an ordinary day. But before the sun goes down, your entire world will disappear. This is the story of Pompeii. Almost 2,000 years ago, Pompeii was a busy Roman city in southern Italy. Thousands of people lived there. There were shops, houses, restaurants, markets, temples, and beautiful buildings. People worked, people laughed, people fell in love, children played in the streets. Nobody knew that a disaster was coming. And above the city stood a huge mountain. Its name was Mount Vesuvius. For a long time, people did not understand that Vesuvius was a volcano. They saw the mountain every day. They lived near it. They trusted it. But in the year 79 AD, everything changed. It began with strange signs. The ground started shaking, buildings moved, walls cracked, people became frightened. But earthquakes were not completely unusual in the area, so many people did not understand what was happening. Then, one day, the mountain exploded. Mount Vesuvius suddenly erupted. A huge cloud of ash, smoke, and volcanic material rose high into the sky. Imagine looking up and seeing a giant black cloud covering the sun. The people of Pompeii had never seen anything like it. Some ran immediately, others stayed. Some probably thought the danger would pass, but the danger was getting closer. Ash began falling from the sky, the streets became covered, the air became difficult to breathe. People tried to escape, they carried children, they carried bags, they searched for family members. The peaceful city had become a nightmare. But this was only the beginning. The eruption became more powerful. Hot volcanic material began falling across Pompeii. Roofs collapsed. Buildings broke apart. The streets disappeared under layers of ash and rock. People who had stayed behind were trapped. Some tried to hide inside their homes. Others tried to run. But the disaster moved faster than they could. Then something even more terrifying happened. A deadly wave of extremely hot gas and volcanic material rushed down the mountain. It moved through the surrounding area with incredible speed. There was almost nowhere to escape. In a short time, Pompeii was buried. A city that had been full of life became silent. The streets disappeared. The houses disappeared. The people disappeared. Pompeii was almost completely forgotten. For centuries, the city remained hidden beneath the earth. And that is where the story becomes extraordinary. Because Pompeii did not simply disappear, it was preserved. Hundreds of years passed, generations came and went, people forgot where Pompeii had been. Then, centuries later, archaeologists began discovering the buried city. They found streets, they found houses, they found shops, they found paintings, they found tools, they found everyday objects, and they discovered something incredible. The volcanic ash had preserved parts of the city almost like a photograph. It showed people what Roman life looked like nearly 2,000 years ago. There were bakeries, there were restaurants, there were houses with beautiful paintings, there were public buildings, there were roads, there were even political messages written on walls. Pompeii was no longer just a lost city. It had become a window into the ancient world. And perhaps the most emotional discoveries were the human remains. The shapes of some victims were preserved in the hardened volcanic material. Archaeologists later used plaster techniques to create casts showing the final positions of some people. These discoveries remind us that Pompeii was not just a historical site. It was a real city, with real people, real families, real dreams, and real lives that ended in a single disaster. Today, millions of people know the name Pompeii, but the story is more than a volcanic eruption. It teaches us something about life. The people of Pompeii woke up thinking about normal things. They probably thought about work, food, family, money, tomorrow, just like we do. They did not know that their ordinary day would become one of the most famous disasters in history. And that is what makes the story so powerful. Life can change very quickly. A normal morning can become an unforgettable moment. So when you look at the ruins of Pompeii, you are not only looking at old stones, you are looking at the remains of people's lives. A bakery where someone once made bread, a house where a family once lived, a street where people once walked, a city where people once dreamed about tomorrow. And suddenly, history feels very close. Let's learn a few useful English words from today's story. Eruption means a sudden explosion of a volcano. Ash means the fine powder left after something burns, or volcanic material released during an eruption. Buried means covered by something, especially under the ground. Escape means to get away from danger. And one important phrase from today's story is, life can change very quickly. Say it again. Life can change very quickly. It is a simple English sentence, but it carries a powerful message. The people of Pompeii did not know what was coming. Neither do we. So appreciate your time. Learn something today. Talk to someone you love. And don't always wait for tomorrow, because sometimes tomorrow is not guaranteed. Pompeii disappeared almost 2,000 years ago, but its story survived. And today, you learned that story in English. You didn't just learn history. You learned new words. You listened to real storytelling. And hopefully, you became a little more confident with English. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and join me for the next journey through history. Until then, keep learning, keep listening, and remember, every story has something to teach us. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.